Hello, movie nerds, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Ted Lasso. This is something that I have not covered before because the beginning of this show started prior to me starting this podcast. And thankfully, we are now on season 3 of Ted Lasso, which just dropped last night. And I can now talk about it. I'm stoked. I'm so excited. Ted Lasso has to be probably one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite, like comedic sitcom type show. It's shorter episodes, longer-ish kind of seasons, I guess, but shorter episodes. And I, from the very second that this show came out, completely fell in love with it. I know that Ryan Reynolds has had sort of his own Ted Lasso moment because he did purchase a football team overseas, I believe. And by football, I do not mean American football. I mean actual football, which is American soccer. Ted Lasso, to me, for anybody who hasn't watched Ted Lasso, let's just start there. Ted Lasso is basically about a character named Ted Lasso, who is an American soccer coach who gets hired by a team in the UK to, coach their team into being a better, winning team, that they're at each other's throats. They don't get along. They're not playing very well. And he comes in and kind of turns the team around. This is a show that I would highly, highly recommend for anyone that hasn't watched it, who isn't familiar with it. If you can get your hands on it, like if you actually have the channel and you can go and watch Ted Lasso, I absolutely would. I think it's probably one of the best comedy dramas. Maybe it would have a fight with Schitt's Creek, but since Schitt's Creek is not on anymore, I feel like Ted Lasso kind of stands alone in that arena of just really greatly written comedy. And here's the thing about Ted Lasso that I love a lot. It deals with a lot more serious topics, but in a lighthearted way. You've got anger issues, you've got jealousy, you've got self-confidence, you've got all of that kind of stuff wrapped into sort of this comedy show. And the character of Ted Lasso, played by Jason Sudeikis, he does such a remarkable job of just being this like sort of overly bubbly kind of personality that brings this different sort of way of thinking to the team. And it's so heartwarming. Like, to me, Ted Lasso is like a bowl of chicken soup. It's good. It's going to be good. It's going to just make you feel good. Especially if you're sick or you're feeling down, something like Ted Lasso is just going to bring you right back up again. And it definitely does. I will say, like, the whole kind of, for anyone who doesn't know, you won't really catch this reference, but the thing between Ted Lasso and a character that he kind of helps throughout the show, he essentially, there is this character who kind of lacks self-confidence, and Ted Lasso builds him up. Nate is this character, builds him up to such an extent that Nate ends up kind of betraying everyone so that he can go off and be the head coach for a rival team. And that dynamic between the two, the difference between actually having self-confidence and kind of pretending to have self-confidence or using your self-confidence to hurt other people, I absolutely just completely love showing that difference there and why that difference is so important. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much there is to say about Ted Lasso for anyone that hasn't seen it, just go watch. And those people that have seen it definitely already know what I'm talking about with the feel goods of Ted Lasso. I have heard, just to kind of circle around to another show that I mentioned, I have heard that they are considering doing another season or continuing seasons of Schitt's Creek. And if that is the case, I will be over the moon, because Schitt's Creek is probably my all-time favorite comedy series. I think it was just amazing to behold, and I would love to see them come back and do some more. That show, I think, would absolutely give Ted Lasso a run for its money. So you guys will have to let me know what you are thinking of the start of season 3. I believe there is only one episode out right now for Ted Lasso season 3. Definitely catch up if you have not seen the first 2 seasons. You can subscribe to my podcast if you want to join the Movie Nerd family. Find me over on Instagram at Cinematic Sarcastic Podcast, and I hope to see you in the next episode.